important thing is for you guys to take away from today are all of the interesting provisions of Obamacare that can affect your startup. And a lot of people think, oh, it doesn't affect my startup. So we're actually going to put it together and show you how Obamacare, some provisions in there, impact your ability to utilize some Georgia tax credits. And when we talk tax credits and we talk Georgia tax credits for technology companies, we talk about, everyone says, I've got an early stage company, I don't make money yet. What do I need a tax credit for? But we talk about tax credits, we're talking about tax credits that are convertible into cash. As long as you have employees that you employ in the state, you can convert these credits into cash. And so we're going to tie the Health Care Act together with some of the Georgia tax credits and have you understand those.
There is a tax credit created under the Act for small employers who do choose to offer health insurance to their employees. Now you'll see the requirements to be eligible for this credit are fairly limited. The average wage of your employees must be less than $50,000, and once the average wage exceeds $25,000, the credit begins to phase out ratably between the two. And so it's a steep plateau. And also to meet this, the employer must pay the premium for each employee enrolled in insurance coverage, and you have to use a uniform percentage when you're paying the premium. As I mentioned, there's a phase out for wages in excess of $25,000, and also, as we stated earlier, you can have a maximum of 25 full-time employees, and the credit also starts to phase out once you exceed 10 employees. So we have an example where the company has 12 full-time employees and an average wage of $30,000. So it's partially phased out because you have two employees in excess of 10 and 5,000 of average wages in excess of 25,000. So the maximum credit would be 35% of the healthcare cost, which we've assumed was 30,000. So it could be as high as 10,500, but because of the phase out, the actual credit is going to be 3,100, which is still a 10% savings on your health care costs. The Georgia Jobs Credit, one of the requirements to be eligible for that is to offer health insurance to your employees. And the Georgia Jobs Credit, if your office is in this very location, you're eligible for the credit of $3,500 per employee, and you can use it to offset your payroll withholding.
How many years, if I hire 5 people this year, and I keep those 5 people employed for the next 5 years, do I get $3,500 a year every year for the next 5 years?
Yes.
Limited to 5 years? As long as I maintain those positions. I could have turnover, but as long as I maintain those positions. And convert it into cash, even though you have, let's say, a tax loss. And there's zones around the state that offer this. If you go up into Alpharetta, you have to add probably 25 jobs. If you go into some other areas of the state, maybe 50 jobs. But if you're in this very location or other locations across the bridge on the tech campus, down Spring Street, we just advised one of our clients that was in this building here in ATDC. They're still an ATDC member. They unfortunately were not getting advised to offer health insurance to their employees. They had hired 10 employees while they were here. Their CPA firm didn't know about this, didn't tell them about it. They didn't offer health insurance, can't go back and get it. But now they offer it. We advised them to offer it. They've added quite a few employees. We've advised them on moving because they were going to move from here. We didn't tell them to move, Jennifer, but they moved from here. But they moved very close by. We advised them where to move, literally what side of the street got them the credit. So this side of Spring Street, you're eligible. The other side, you're not eligible for. So these pockets are all over the state and all over the downtown area. You can go over to Centennial Park. There's some buildings that qualify, some that don't.
How do you find your pocket?
You call us and we tell you.
I was gonna say, what's driving it
That's-
behind, as far as the location?
Well, the city actually lobbies to get certain areas, and probably the owners of the real estate also get the city to lobby to get some areas actually placed in these designated zones. Sometimes we're able to say, crappy areas are, we generally look, oh, if you're in a cruddy area, you're gonna get the credit. We always have to check the maps, and sometimes it's true, and sometimes it's not. You go into very rural parts of the state, they generally are eligible for a similar credit you can get right here in this building. Mostly within the metro Atlanta, you're not gonna get those credits, but some zones have been added. In Gwinnett County, they added some zones recently up in Norcross. So they change over time. But this building has been in the zone for quite a few years, as well as the tech campus, as well as Marietta Street. You're smiling because I think you guys might be
I
in.
live on the Marietta, I live in an empowerment zone, so.
And this is not an empowerment zone. This is
It was
different.
HUD and empowerment, we were,
You mean hub zone. This
Hub
is not
zone.
hub zone. This is not empowerment
Ah.
zone. This is a different thing.
but Marietta, yep, we have
Yeah,
those.
and on Marietta Street, where you guys are still there, across on Marietta Street, so near you, and I'm not sure if your building is in one of these zones like this is. You may be, just not.
We're one
know it.
block off.
You are, you know that, okay. So I know there are some clients we have in that area that are in the
One-
zone.
one
And
block
literally
down
it
is
could
the
be,
zone.
across the street, you are in. A lot of times we'll work with a company and they'll look at leasing options and we'll say, okay, you can either lease here or here. They work with their leasing agent. We'll say, well, this one's in the zone and this isn't. So they'll say, I'll go in the zone. I'm getting the same price, same general location, same rent, same cost for me. Might as well get this, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. I mean, depending on the area, it could be more than $3,500. Here, it's $3,500 a person.
And that's a Georgia tax credit?
It's a Georgia refundable tax credit. You don't need taxable income to get it. You get the money from the state. If you miss it on your tax return, you cannot go back and get it. It's either get it now or get it in the future. You can't, there's something called amending tax returns, which we will do for clients, but you can't go back and get this type of credit. Okay, so I talked about the angel credit a little bit before. Does anyone have any questions about the angel credit? Feel free to read through my article and that we've written. It's very informative, pretty straightforward. The jobs credit, which we just talked about, is very interesting. There's been a lot of changes, very positive changes. Depending on some zones, you have to add a certain number of jobs a year. Some areas where it was 5 jobs, now it's only 2 jobs, and so it varies quite a bit, but it's something you definitely want to take advantage of. And again, offering the health insurance, you don't have to pay for it, but you have to offer it, and that's important for early stage companies that don't have a lot of resources. You at least offer it. You can do it directly or indirectly through a leasing company, through an employee leasing organization, PEO, they're typically referred to as. You can offer it again, but don't have to pay for it, and you'll qualify for the jobs credit that's refundable. Yeah, Brooks.
On the number of employees, do members of the LLC count as employees?
Yes, generally yes. Not all of the members, but the members that are employees that are working as employees, yes. Not like an investor. The R&D credit, just to mention, is again another credit similar to the jobs credit in this area, but the R&D credit is a federal and a statewide credit. And in Georgia, since 2009, it's been going on for quite a few years now, prior to 2009, the Georgia R&D credit was not worth much because you had to have taxable income for 4 years running to qualify for it. So tell me what startup company that really needs this benefit is doing that. Just not happening. In 2009, the R&D Georgia law was modified, where it said if your company is under 5 years old, or if you move to Georgia from some other state or country and you start here new, for your first 5 years, you can claim the Georgia R&D credit, refundable, converting it into cash, generally about 10% of your R&D wages, or 6.5% of your contractor costs, as long as the contractors are in the state of Georgia. So very meaningful credit to any company under 5 years old. That's from 2009. Starting this year, in May of this year, the governor signed some phenomenal legislation for companies over 5 years old. they struck out the word 5 years old. It doesn't matter. So if your company's been in business 6 years, 10 years, 50 years, it doesn't matter whether you're new to Georgia or you've been here for years, you now can take your Georgia R&D credit and convert it into cash. It's actually, I use the example of 10% of your R&D wages. That's a simplified formula. It's actually a very complex formula and measures actually your revenue from Georgia customers against your Georgia R&D spend. So in some cases, it could be zero. If you have millions of dollars of revenue from Georgia customers and you've got $100,000 of Georgia R&D, you're not going to get a credit. What we're seeing with a lot of our technology companies is even though they're here spending money on employees R&D, revenue's coming in from all over the country, in many cases all over the world, and so in many cases the R&D spend is much greater than the revenue, and so the revenue, it ends up in many cases being 10%. We're working with a company right now that it was zero last year. They started out, they were just focused as a location-based company in Georgia. Their R&D spend was here, but all their revenue was here. Now they've expanded into multiple areas around the country, and so then they're spending more in R&D, so now they qualify for an R&D credit too. And like the Georgia Jobs Credit, in this zone, the R&D credit statewide is convertible into cash even with a tax loss, or you can pass it through on a K-1 to the owners of the LLC or shareholders of the S corporation. If you use it against your income tax by passing it through on the K-1, or for a regular corporation that pays tax, you can offset half your income tax. So we have some clients that are S corporations, and they fortunately make money, and they do R&D, and essentially this Georgia tax rate, anyone know what it is? Anyone have any idea? Georgia tax rate? Everyone live here? Georgia, someone said it. 6%. 6%. Oh, it says it somewhere in there. So it's 6%. Thanks. So the tax rate's 6%. So you could essentially get your tax rate down to 3%. I have some clients, their tax rate's 3% in Georgia. And they've got tons of Georgia tax credits, and they were using it as their income, but why move to Florida now? A lot of people, they want to move to Florida if they're going to have a big year on an exit or something. So 3%. So it's a nice tax rate. So I think I could live with 3% if that was my tax rate versus moving to a state like Las Vegas, Nevada or Florida. If you incorporate your company in Delaware and you're doing business here, you should be qualified as a foreign corporation doing business in Georgia. You would need to do that to take advantage of any of this and to file Georgia tax returns to do this. And you have to do that anyways. So it doesn't matter that you're a Delaware corporation. You could be a corporation in any state in the country.
Be qualified first and then apply for it.
You have to be qualified, right. Any other questions? Well, on behalf of Habif, Arogeti Wynne, we appreciate you guys coming to eat lunch with us and hope we brought you some good information.